Hello, I am Panou from CSU Sacramento in the Curriculum and Instruction Program, and my action research study is increasing listening comprehension skills through the implemented research strategies for understanding context. I am a teacher for a before, during, and after school program that is located at an elementary school in Northern California. The school that I teach at is a Title I school with a diverse crowd of minority students. At the program that I teach, my students range from K to 6th grade. However, I teach kinders for a portion of the time that centers and focuses on a literacy program called Learning Through Literacy. So my focus students are 3 kindergartners, as they are minority students themselves, who have low exposure to academic language at home, low engagement with peers, and don't show early literacy skills, as these groups of students are limited in resources. My students struggle with comprehension overall on context/text through read-alouds. I want to find ways to help support my students during my instructional lessons in order to increase their understanding of the presented materials. So with my research question for my action research study is, what happens to the levels of listening comprehension of students understanding text when I incorporate the manipulation strategy along with other support methods? Here are some reviewed literature that I researched in which it helped me with the implemented supports for my instructional rounds for my action research study. For my reviewed literature led me to my innovations and interventions for each research round. For round 1, I implemented the manipulation strategy in which students used manipulatives that was provided to depict the story of events during the read aloud at my signal. After the instruction, students answered general and detailed questions. Moving on to round 2, I implemented the picture strategy in which students used images that was provided to depict the story of events during the read aloud at my signal. After the instruction, students answered general and detailed questions as well. Then we have round 3, which is the imagination strategy. Students imagined the events in their heads with no presented materials. For extended support, students answered questions that were asked for guiding and prompting answers. And then after, students answered general and detailed questions as well. In my round 1 findings, my students were able to use the manipulatives correctly and accordingly to depict the events of the story. All my focus students answered most, if not all, the detailed questions correctly. However, I found common themes that my focus students shared from this round and that they struggled in. The first theme was delayed, which is the timing that was off when the student used the manipulatives in trying to depict the events. Next is clarification. The student did not understand the initial questions being asked, so I had to rephrase it in a simpler manner. And then we have hesitant. The student did not use the manipulatives right away. I had to verbally remind them as well. From my round 1 findings, I adjusted and implemented some things to this round in order to improve my instructional teachings based on what my students struggled in the prior round. Reviewed print concepts, asked age-related questions, and read the story twice. So for round 2 findings, my students were able to choose in depicting the pictures accordingly that represents the events from the story. All my focus students answered most, if not all, the detailed questions correctly. However, I found some common themes that my students shared from this round and that they struggled in. First, delayed. The timing was off when choosing the images and trying to depict the events. Then we have switching focus. The student was switching back and forth in trying to choose the picture events from also looking at the book. Down below are some images that the students choose during the instructional round in choosing the pictures of events. Based on round 2 findings, I continue to keep the implemented supports from the prior round to round 3, along with some extended support. Those extended support was asking scaffolding questions that prompt or guide the students to a correct response. Then for round 3 findings, my students performed in executing the strategy of closing their eyes to imagine the events. All my focus students answered all the scaffolding questions correctly. All my focus students answered most, if not all, the detailed questions correctly. However, I found some common things my students shared from this round and that they struggled in. Delayed. The timing was off when the students were supposed to apply the strategy of picturing the events in their heads. Then we have hesitant. The students did not answer the scaffolding questions right away when being asked as they imagined the events. Another overall common struggling theme is delayed, which is the timing was off when the students were actively implementing the support method. Here's an example. As I read the story and gave them the signal and raising my hand up, the gingerbread man ran on. Soon he came to some farmers. Some of the focus students were still looking and searching for the previous picture of events that was read, which was the old man and the old woman saw the gingerbread man, and they ran too, but the gingerbread man ran faster. Then we have overall common comprehension themes for synthesis of results. First, we have application and strategy. All the focus students still manage to correctly implement and perform the strategy according to the round of instruction. For example, actively use the mandibulators, choose the images in reference to the story, and follow the prompt of the asked questions of eliciting and narrowing down the answers. Then we have detailed and general questions. All focus students for each round answer most, if not all, the questions correctly regarding to each story. Future implications. From the results of my action research study, the implemented supports had a great impact on my students' overall comprehension of the material syntax. I will continue to implement these research-based strategies into my instructional round to further assist their learning process and improve my own teaching methods. I plan to find new support strategies along with methods to incorporate into my lessons as well. I still need to continue to have guided instructional support for my students as they still need direct support. Thank you for your time.